Good morning. Thank you, Teresa, and thank you for all your hard work in organising this conference. My name is Richard Twine. I work at Lancaster University in England, and I've officially been co-organiser of this conference, but remotely. And a lot of things have gone on, Google Documents, all this kind of stuff, and I should say that I feel like I've done a lot of work, but I'm sure I've only done maybe 20% of the work, so thank you, Teresa. As Teresa said, this is the second annual European Conference for Critical Animal Studies. In 2010, we had the first one in Liverpool, in England, and that was a one-day event. I think it had maybe 9 or so papers. Some of the presenters, I believe, are here today. And this was a small beginning. We're excited about this year's conference. There are many more papers. It's over 2 days. I think maybe 5 times as many papers. And also, clearly that was quite a UK-centred European conference. And this is much more diverse. And I think will be much better for that. And also, the fact that we're in the Czech Republic, I think, is significant. So we're interested in the emergence of human animal studies and critical animal studies in other countries, which people might not think it has too much of a foothold. Okay. As many of you know, critical animal studies defines itself somewhat differently to some of the other areas of academic interest in human-animal relations. I don't think, I mean, there's lots of debate on this question, and perhaps I don't think it's useful to have a rigid sort of another binary between critical animal studies and animal studies on the one hand. There's diversity within each of those terms, and there are also obviously terms that are evolving as well. Nevertheless, critical animal studies does make some of its own specific statements and claims over and above those of the broader field of animal studies. We all share a commitment to interdisciplinarity, but critical animal studies wants to make some additional points, and so we take the view that explanations for the way in which we treat animals are bound up in other relations of power, such as our capitalist economics and our inevitable gender and race relations. So we take the concept of intersectionality seriously. Moreover, we think that threats of species extinctions, the intensification of what we refer to as the animal-industrial complex, and its implication in climate change all suggest a political urgency for scholars working in human-animal relations, not just to sit back and watch while things go wrong. Critical animal studies advocates for veganism as part of a wider intersectional political vision. This also includes a commitment to fostering links with activists and clearly also a critical questioning of contemporary political institutions and their present inability to accommodate politico-ethical questions around human-animal relations. Critical animal studies specifically emerged around about 10 years ago with the work of Steve Best and others who kind of produced a sort of manifesto for critical animal studies. And since then, the subfield has sort of evolved, and we have our own journal for Critical Animal Studies. The present editor is here, Richard White. But before that, say, this writing emerged in 2002, 2003 with the formation of the journal. Critical Animal Studies clearly has its roots before then, going back to the 1970s emergence or wave of analysis and theorizing of the politics of human-animal relations, and most obviously the emergence in philosophy, discipline of philosophy. So we are fortunate that 2 of the leading influences from that period have sent us messages of welcome. And I have the honour of reading these speeches to you now. So these are Carol J. Adams and Tom Regan. So apologies, you will have to put up with my voice and pretend that I am these people for a short period of time. I wish. Okay. Many of you will be familiar with Carol J. Adams' work. Her very famous 1990 book, Sexual Politics of Me, which really catalyzed investigations into the intersections of gender and human-animal relations. And here is her message. Both messages are quite long. Not too long. Dear friends, scholars, activists, welcome to this exciting conference. Imagine more than 100 of you have gathered from all over Europe and further afield to explore issues in critical animal studies. This is so significant. I want to thank you all for working in this field. There is so much for us to learn, and the kinds of explorations you are doing not only widens the field, it widens our own individual consciousness. You are teaching each of us. The rise of critical animal studies is very exciting, but there are dangers too. Do our successes in academia in general and in publishing in specific pave the way for those whose work may betray our goals? Will the subjects become depoliticized as we gain more inroads in academia? I speak to you from outside academia, and frankly I've never understood how academia works. I worry that we have made animal studies successful as an area of study, and the more reformist academics are going to move in and seize upon our successes. Sadly, I've seen this before. I've noticed more and more regressive and reiterative work that normalizes things as they are. I've noticed a process of capture of radical insights that then become domesticated, and the activist aspect of the insight is neutralized. I urge you not to ignore the historic and contemporary importance of feminism and ecofeminism to critical animal studies. I hope critical animal studies is not unmoored from its roots. Intersectionality is of central importance to work in animal studies, but as academia becomes receptive to animal studies, the challenge to critical animal studies will increase. I hear from undergraduate and graduate students all over the world. The undergraduates ask me, where can they go to pursue their studies? I tried to find that out, and please let me know if you're at a university. I should make sure it's on my list. And then the graduate students tell me how they are discouraged from approaching their topics with a lens of intersectionality. I hear from graduate students who are afraid to be seen as vegans because they will be considered no longer academically neutral. The irony that no one is neutral is not lost on them. They just feel strategically carrying a briefcase that appears to be leather is in their best interest. In the 20th anniversary edition of the Sexual Politics Read, I talk about engaged theory. Our engagement, or so it seems to me, is with real lives and real crises and dire situations. Yes, I appreciate the needed complications to any discussion that a study of continental theory brings to our discussions, but my question is, does the absent reference stay absent in academia or not? I have been asked, do I have any practical advice to you on how to grow the field of critical animal studies? Again, remember, I have no actual skills as an academic. I would first urge you to pay attention to your intuitions and not to ignore your own body. If your ideas don't fit with your program, the problem may not be yours. Except that this kind of tension with academia is a necessary aspect of our work. When there was nothing written that would help me as I wrote the Sexual Politics of Meat, I realized I just needed to make it up, to create it. Then I was asked did I want to call it Toward a Feminist Vegetarian Critical Theory, and I remembered something that had been said about feminist theory. It was always toward something, tentative, as though we were hesitant to say we had actually achieved something. Critical animal studies has arrived. It is not toward, but here, in this room, right now. Please take a moment and celebrate your being together and your shared commitments. If you're like me, you've discovered that there are many more sessions to attend than you can physically achieve, so enjoy the breaks between the sessions. The gaps of the conference can be equally stimulating. I imagine a couple of late nights as well. I think it's already been one for some people. As you return to your own communities, you may feel your isolation even more because you've had this intense time together. Well, at least we have social media to keep us connected. Find a way to balance your own situation with a sense of a larger community that extends around the world. Find ways to stay connected to animal advocacy and to promote intersectional advocacy. We all have so much to learn from grassroots activism. Keep connected to the critical nature of our work, and drop me a line and let me know how you're doing. The end. Very happy to be able to read our second welcome message from Tom Regan. It's one of those cases and moments where you really don't feel that you need to introduce somebody. Clearly, Tom Regan is perhaps the founding philosophical writer of animal rights philosophy. Okay. Some things we know. It is a pipe dream to think that human or animal liberation will come to pass when the world turns vegan. Yes, of course, a vegan world is among our aspirations, but more than this is called for, just as more than buying cruelty-free cosmetics and toiletries is required. How do we describe, how do we even imagine the deep changes that must occur? Some years ago, I answered this question by alluding to a new generation, what I call the generation. With Richard's approval, he reads part of what I wrote at that time. I write of a new generation, the generation. It is a generation of service, of giving, not taking, of commitment to principles, not material possessions, of communal compassion, not conspicuous consumption. If the defining question of the present generation is what can I get for me, the central question of this new generation is what can I do for thee? The thee, to be served, includes the disabled and the poor, the illiterate and the homeless, the starving and the abused, those newly born and those soon to die. Race makes no difference, gender makes no difference. All who stand in need are assisted, with those least able to help themselves receiving the greater share. This ethic of service to the other is rooted in a reconceptualization of what the human person is. A shared sense of community replaces the void of individual estrangement. Only by acting for the other does one come to know oneself. Not in isolation from the ties that bind each to all, but in affirmation of them. Apart from such relationships, the self is seen to be an empty shell. The word I, the most impersonal of pronouns. The malign logic of Descartes' cogito is dead. In its place, a new declaration is alive. Ego vivo in civitate ergo sum. I live in community, therefore I am. Dissolved of the arrogant boundaries of anthropocentrism, possessed of the breath of life, members of the generation recognize their membership in the life community. Whereas previous generations saw a world consisting of discrete, isolated atoms of matter, or of mind, the generation sees interrelated molecular communities of life. This change in perspective is more than conceptual. The realization of human embeddedness in nature is a half-truth if limited to some abstract formula. As if all biotic connections could be reduced to the chemical kinship found in the carbon cycle. Human embeddedness is subjectively concrete, affording an immediate living sense of what it is to be in the world. The landscape remains unaltered, but the perspective has changed, fundamentally, radically. Along with an increased awareness of living in community with all life, members of the V generation assume increased responsibility for life. In contrast to previous generations who saw the alienated human as master, members of the generation see themselves as protectors of the natural world. The question, what can I do for thee, is asked not only of vulnerable, disempowered humans, but also of other animals. The depraved instrumentality by which previous generations have fixed the value of these animals is replaced by recognition of their inherent worth. That worth is neither respected nor served by allowing commerce in their flesh as food, for example, or by utilizing them as models of human disease. An ethic of domination, one that elevates the human to the status of master species, both accepts and encourages these as well as many other forms of socially sanctioned barbarity. But not as an ethic of service. Such an ethic shakes the very foundations of Western civilization as we know it. In place of the pathological tradition of animal enslavement, the generation offers a philosophy of liberation, one that calls for freeing these animals from the yoke of human tyranny. This same philosophy extends to the sustainers of life, the land, the waters, the air. These two are protected, these two liberated from the ravages of individual and collective greed. The human walks gently upon the earth, and what was once plundered is now restored, as we discover who we are and what we can and ought to be. A revolution is underway, a revolution of the human spirit. All around us, the weight of dead theories and decaying institutions is being cast off. I've written of the generation as new, yet in some ways it is ancient. Like St. Augustine's city of God that has no particular location, the generation has no specific temporal place. Some members have lived and died. Others live now. Many more are yet to be born. All are united across time by the bonds of shared ideals, communal aspirations, and an unshakable conviction. The day will come when their numbers and influence will be sufficient to cause cultural change, to save not only the whales and the planet, but ourselves. One thing is certain, whatever hope there is for the flourishing of life within and beyond the extended human family requires the demise of those ideas that have brought us here. The ethos of avenging angels is past. Ours is an age when benevolent assassins are asked to bury false ideologies. If critical animal studies has a future, it is this. So from Tom Reagan, let the conference begin. Thanks. This conference is also a pre-conference event for the Minding Animals 2 conference to take place in Utrecht in the Netherlands next July. And as part of that, the chief executive of the Minding Animals organization, Rob Benison, he would have liked to have been here. He could not make it, however, he has asked me to also give you a short presentation about that conference and about also to tell you a little bit about the Minding Animals organization. Many of you will have heard of Minding Animals before. The first Minding Animals conference took place in 2009 in Newcastle, New South Wales, Australia, and I know that some of you were there. And the goal and aspiration, and indeed soon to be reality, is that Minding Animals will hold a conference every 3 years. And so Utrecht next year, 2012, and 2015, the venue is not decided yet, but it's likely to be in the United States, possibly California. So those of you that know the field will know that many different events happening this year and also in the first part of next year have become sort of affiliated to Minding Animals in certain ways and have become pre-conference events. So it's a great way to mutually promote each other's events. Okay, so minding animals is it's a little bit different to critical animal studies. I think we would see minding animals as an organisation which wants to bring together different strands of the study of human-animal relations, firstly, but then also build bridges between science, the humanities, and ethics. Okay, so I think a conference like this is very affirming to spend time with many people who share many of your beliefs, but I don't think we can live like that. I think we have to be in conversation with people who hold quite different beliefs. Okay, so Minding Animals 2, next July. It's a transdisciplinary conference exploring the interrelationships between animals and society. And these are the sort of strap lines of the conference. So where science meets the humanities, I think social sciences assumed to be in that too. Where academic meets activist, where environmentalist meets animal advocates, where all can participate in consideration of past, present, and future interrelationships between human animals, non-human animals, and the total environment. I'm not going to read every bit of text on each slide. But these are the objectives of the conference. So, for example, the first one there is to reassess the relationship between animal and environmental movements in light of climate change and jointly held threats and concerns. You can see how that is a clear affinity with critical animal studies as well. Okay, I'll just give you a little bit more time to read through that. Again, this is very much promoting an interdisciplinary gathering. And like I said, it wants to bring together animal studies. There's different ways of naming the field, and so some people like to call it animal studies. We want to define ourselves as critical animal studies. The Animals and Society Institute in the US likes the term human animal studies, HAS. And then the Minding Animals 2 conference is hoping to bring together all these different perspectives and disciplines. And I assume that is not even a comprehensive list. Okay, so the conference structure, actually, the conference itself would probably be 3 days long, but before that there's a pre-conference event in Royston, which I believe is on animal ethics specifically. And also the usual sort of conference structure of opening and closing plenary sessions, keynote speakers, dinner speaker, concurrent sessions, and poster sessions. This is a big conference. If the one in Australia in 2009 is anything to go by, I don't recall the number of people who were there, but I'm sure it was at least 500. I think because of the financial crisis, it's more difficult for people to travel, and so perhaps Minding Animals 2 won't be quite as big, but it will be a big conference. These are keynote speakers who are confirmed so far. Many of those will be familiar names to you, I think. I can add one name to that list, a man who goes by the name of Peter Singer. Key aspects of the conference: Minding Animals 2, study circles, roundtables, a particular seminar series on protecting the animals, specifically to talk about activism. An Animals and Art Festival. Just to remind you, we have some art at this conference too, on the 3rd floor. Animal documentaries, religious interfaith service, conference dinner, and so on and so forth. Some pictures of Utrecht. Some of you may know Utrecht. It's quite near Amsterdam. I believe it's about 30 minutes from Amsterdam. picture of the venue. And as I mentioned, there are many pre-conference events. We've called this a pre-conference event too. And there is one early next week in Uppsala in Sweden, and there are many have been held already. And what Rod Benson has called the October Frenzy, of which we are a part. There are all these meetings happening in October, and there are more in the pipeline, I believe, for the earlier part of 2012. There we go. Portsmouth, Osnabrück, Zurich, Geneva, Sydney. Okay. Okay, if you want to go to this conference, I suggest it would be a good gathering to go to. It says here abstracts closed December 15th. I was at the meeting of Minding Animals a week ago and got on pretty good authority that that's going to be pushed to January 15th. Please keep looking at the Minding Animals website. The address will come up soon. Very soon. Okay. Great. Thank you very much. That was a short presentation on Minding Animals. Okay. The first session of this conference begins at 10 o'clock. Yeah? Great. Super. So we have 10 more minutes than anticipated to just have a look around and find out where the toilets are. On the third floor, the gents are in that corner, and the women's toilets are in that corner. I don't know about other floors, it might be the same.
Yeah,
different than every floor, just to keep you guessing. Sorry? It's a Kafka building. Is there any, since we have this time, is there any other points of information that I should relay? I don't think so. So there are two art exhibitions at this conference. One is by a Canadian photographer based in Toronto called Joanne MacArthur, who for many years now has been running this website called We Animals, and she has sent us, she's very kindly sent us some samples of her work, and these are on display on the third floor. You can't miss them, and they're actually for sale as well. And we were very happy that the German artist Hartmut Kiewert, I hope I said that right, is also showing his work at this conference. And as you climb, if you have not yet climbed to the third floor of this building, you will be confronted with a very large work of art. And I think he also has some samples of his work. I think smaller samples than that one for sale. Okay. And any questions, please ask some of our volunteers that we have at the information desk. Okay, thank you. I hope you enjoy the next 2 days.